We have a range of categories that we can kind of go over, but it's not going to be just a potency contest.
Welcome to this episode of Mocktails and Mushrooms, the podcast where we sip on delicious non-alcoholic drinks and talk about the world of psychedelic mushrooms. Today's topic is the upcoming Psychedelic Cup, hosted by the Psychedelic Club of Denver. I'm Jimmy Smers, your host and guide. I'm a spirituality and psychedelic educator and founder of Yoga on the Green, where we combine yoga and plant medicine and work with the science of spirituality.
And I'm Ashley, your co-host and guide. I teach people about mushrooms, wellness, spirituality, love, and personal growth. Check out my blog, thenaughtyprofessor.com, and YouTube channel at MushLust, where I share tips on how to have a safe and meaningful experiences with mushrooms.
We are psyched to share our passion for mushrooms with you, and we are co-founders of Psyched4 Media Group, a psychedelic media company that produces this podcast as well as other projects. We are on a mission to spread the word about the benefits of sacred mushrooms for healing, connection, and enlightenment. We are also here to spread the word about the power of community healing.
You can interact with us through our website at mocktailsandmushrooms.com.
We also have a quick disclaimer that the material presented in this podcast is for adults 21 and older and is intended to be educational. It does not constitute legal or medical advice and should not be used as a substitute for professional guidance. Please use your own discretion and consult with a medical professional before using mushrooms or any other psychedelic substance.
Today, we're going to talk about an exciting topic with our special guest. It was recently announced that Psychedelic Club of Denver will be holding the first ever Psychedelic Cup at Mile High Station on November 2nd. Jimmy, will you introduce our special guest?
I sure will, Ashley. Born and raised in New York, Jonathan Cherkoss is a licensed attorney specializing in cannabis and psychedelic licensing and policy. He is the guest organizer for the Psychedelic Cup this fall for the Psychedelic Club of Denver. Before becoming a consultant, Jonathan worked in nearly every facet of the cannabis industry and served on Governor Jared Polis's 2018 campaign as the nation's first full-time campaign staffer dedicated to cannabis voter outreach. And he has worked on cannabis and psychedelic policy with Vicente Cederberg. Jonathan lives in Inglewood with his wife, Elizabeth, and 3 dogs. Jonathan?
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the show.
We're so thrilled you're here.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm excited.
All right, let's start with the very basics. What is the Psychedelic Cup?
Sure. So the Psychedelic Cup is going to be a psilocybin mushroom competition. We're going to have samples submitted to our partner testing lab, Altitude Consulting, in Englewood, Colorado. And we're inviting everyone over 21. So amateur mycologists, home growers, people who have been doing this for years, all of that stuff. They can submit their products for potency testing. We have a range of categories that we can kind of go over, but it's not going to be just a potency contest. We're going to have a bunch of different categories. We're looking at both cubensis and non-cubensis mushrooms. It's going to be, we're going to start selling grower tickets on Monday, August 7th. They're going to be going for $35 to enter the competition. And on all of the awards and everything will be given out at Mile High Station on November 2nd.
Cool. I'm so excited that this is going to bring the community together. I know having a lab report for my mushrooms has been a game changer for me. I know exactly how much psilocybin I'm consuming. Could you tell us why lab testing is so important?
Yeah, for sure. So it's something that I've done now at 2 of our presentations. I've asked people, and these are people who are usually very accustomed to growing mushrooms. They're not always just newbies. It's really experienced people who have gotten their mushrooms tested, and it's a handful, couple people here or there. It's really kind of a new thing in Colorado after the Natural Medicine Act passed. It kind of opened up a lot of opportunity for testing, and so the real kind of importance of testing is that we don't have the sort of the language yet to tell each other what it is. So a lot of people will say, oh, I like to eat a gram of mushrooms, but a gram of mushrooms from one thing, could be all over the place.
Yeah.
And so we really, what the club is really focused on is getting the education out there so we can all start having conversations about like, what is a dose? What matters? Is there an entourage effect similar to cannabis with all of the different alkaloids that are present within mushrooms, some of which we know about, and others, much like a lot of the cannabis terpenes and things like that, we're still learning about because there's more and more research happening, at the sort of governmental level and the pharmaceutical level, there's a lot of psilocybin research happening. And so for better or worse, I think that's going to give a lot of insight into like the science of mushrooms.
Yeah, that's such an exciting opportunity for Colorado.
So what is the actual process as far as testing the mushrooms?
Sure. Test the actual testing of the mushrooms.
So you said Altitude
Yes.
Labs?
Yep, Altitude Consulting.
Altitude Consulting. I know they've been in the cannabis space for a while.
Yep.
So what type of test, the process of the test are they actually going to do on the mushrooms?
So the Altitude Consulting, they're based in Englewood. Like you said, they've been around for a while now doing cannabis testing and hemp product testing. Within the past, I want to say 8 months or so, they've integrated psilocybin testing. They have other psychedelics as well. They use an HPLC. I'm not going to say the acronym because I think I'll mess it up. But the HPLC is a very standardized kind of testing machine that is used in cannabis, hemp, and things like that. So all of the samples will go through the HPLC analysis, which looks for different spikes in compounds that are extracted. And then the lab will generate a certificate of analysis. The certificate of analysis, COA, they now have a 7-panel test, which is great because they started out originally with only 2 panels. That was when I first started testing with them back in January. And so they've already added 7. Chase said they may have 9 soon as well, so additional alkaloids that are present. It's really just a matter of setting standards within the machine, identifying what's there, and then reading it back in the science ways that they do.
Cool.
Yeah.
So after they've done all the testing, what are the categories that they're awarding prizes for?
Yep. So we're doing 2 separate categories, 2 separate overarching categories. We have the cubensis and the non-cubensis categories. The reasons why we did this was to allow all of the sort of gambit of growers. So people who are growing the regular mushrooms that we know, and some of the people growing a lot more of the more advanced strains. So whether it be something like a Pancyan or P-natalensis, something like that, those can go in their own category. They have their own alkaloid contents and potencies. So as far as that goes, all of the award categories will be the same in both of them. We're going to be doing highest psilocybin content, lowest psilocybin content, most average psilocybin content, highest psilocin content, and then we are also going to have highest alkaloids. So the alkaloids would be non-psilocybin and psilocin. We would just not look at those numbers, just look at all the other baeocystin, norbaeocystin, all of the other ones. And then we will also have a highest overall category. A lot of them are going to have first, second, third place. Some of them, like lowest, may have a first and a runner-up. And those are the categories that we've come up with for the potency aspect. There's also the secondary aspect of the in-person mushroom beauty contest that we're calling it. And that is going to have some separate categories like largest mushroom, most unique, things like that. But we're working on figuring all of those details out. Those are going to, the testing window is going to be from August, I'm going to say 14th now, to October 17th. And so everyone's going to be able to submit their things during that window, and we're going to be consistently figuring out what everything looks like moving forward.
Oh, that sounds like so much fun. I love all the categories and how it really enables anyone to participate. How it's so exciting. Could you explain the difference between cubensis and non-cubensis?
Yeah, so I can try. So cubensis mushrooms are there. So those are the species.
Right.
So not the strains. A strain is albino penis envy, or I don't know, a Louisiana albino. The mushrooms that I don't want to be overly simplify it, but the mushrooms that everyone knows about. So any of the strains that you would likely name are going to be cubensis varieties. These have their own, it's its own species. People have been able to crossbreed and it's fine, whatever. Crossbreed and get all of these different, there's mutations, there's non-mutations, there's all these new strains and things like that can be done within the cubensis. There's also hybrids that you can do between cubensis and non-cubensis. But in the way that hemp and cannabis are actually the same exact thing, it's the same species, it's the same everything. Mushroom, the difference between cubensis and the other strains, the other species they're different species. So they may have different, they may want different growing methods. Some of them want wood, some of them want, sawdust would work for that. Some of them want manure. And so there are different types of psychedelic mushrooms around the world that people will do. And one of the big issues of why we've done this sort of non-cubensis category is because it's specifically for the pancyans. Mm-hmm. They tend to be very, very small and extremely potent. And so as a basis of milligrams per gram, which is how we measure psilocybin potency, people were very concerned that those are going to blow out the competition on the cubensis side. So we said, okay, let's do that. And that kind of goes with our philosophy of like, what do people want to see? And like, if we can do it, we'll do it. We're Psychedelic Club's a volunteer organization. So to the extent that the logistics of that allow it, and the Natural Medicine Act and 290 allow it, we're open to any and all ideas.
Cool. I absolutely love the community involvement piece and how everyone can get involved. It's so much fun. Cool. Thank you. That explained it very well.
Thanks.
So I noticed that this has been called the Psychedelic Cup, not the Psilocybin Cup. I do know that this only covers psilocybin this year, but is there been discussion about expanding that out to any other different substances before, or in upcoming years? Yes,
potentially. So we did name it the Psychedelic Cup because of that. Under the Natural Medicine Act, mescaline and ibogaine and DMT were they can be looked at under 290. I believe they are decriminalized now. We are taking it.
Just for a little clarification, they are all decriminalized for growing, although ibogaine you are not allowed to gift.
Correct. Yeah, correct. And the ibogaine has apparently there are some risks at the altitude. That's what I've heard. But yes, so next year we will look at that. We wanted to take this year and be like, okay, we're going to do the psilocybin. We have all the home grow. It's a very large community, or it's a pretty large community as far as DMT extractors and things like that. That's going to be, I think, a little more coalition building and finding people. But I don't, it's something I've talked about with people. I've talked about with sponsors. As far as mescaline, there's tons of psychedelic cacti we can use. Peyote's not allowed, but we can use other forms of cacti and things like that. So, and extractions. So really, I mean, in Colorado's, we're really lucky that we kind of have that option. So yeah, we're gonna see. We're playing it kind of safe by just doing the psychedelic mushrooms.
Yeah. And I love that note that this is in Colorado where these are decriminalized now.
Yep.
And so this is the perfect place to have it. And so if somebody wants to submit their mushrooms, how would they go about that? What's the process? How much does it cost?
Yeah. So we're going to start selling grower tickets on Monday, August 7th. And we will be accepting submissions on August 14th. So the submissions, like I said earlier, the grower ticket will be $35. That's for the club that we're a 501c3 nonprofit. It goes towards the event. Anything afterwards will go towards programmatic stuff for the club. It's all volunteer led, so there's no slush fund. So people will buy a grower ticket. Once they have their grower ticket, they will receive a unique kind of barcode with the ticket. They will then use that to take their samples to the lab. The samples need to be dropped off in person at the lab. It doesn't need to be dropped off by the person who's entering the competition, but the lab is not going to be accepting mail-in samples for liability and obvious other reasons. But if you have some mushrooms from a friend, you can drop them off as long as you're here. So once you drop them off at the lab, there will be a chain of custody form that the lab uses where they'll collect the anonymous information. And then also collect some data that we're going to use to sort of present later on. So that would include grow medium, inoculant, whether you started from agar, liquid culture, that kind of information, grains. Once that's all done, you'll submit your sample. The samples will need to be 3 grams, at least 3 grams. They can be more than 3 grams, but we want 3 to at least have a representative sample of a batch. We are asking everyone to submit whole fruits, so a cap and a stem. If your fruits have very large caps but very small stems, that's totally fine. What we don't want to see is just a bag of golden caps, because that's not a representative sample and that doesn't help us kind of get the data we want of what's actually out there. What's the potency of mushrooms as it exists in the community. Once you submit your sample, each sample will be a $40 sampling fee. That goes to the lab. That doesn't go to us. That's to cover their testing costs with the HPLC and all of that stuff. The lab and the club have put up a kind of, arm's length wall where the lab is not going to have individuals' names, and the club will have that. The lab will only have the anonymous IDs from the tickets. Once it's all done, after October 17th, we'll mix and match everything, and all the samples and things like that will have their COAs, and we'll release the results. The one thing I did not mention is for blob mutations, so like enigmas, things like that. We're asking for a whole cluster. We really want to see as representative of a sample of mushrooms as they are in your bags. So, right, and that's part of the reason why we did the sort of lowest potency and some of the other things, is to really make it so that it's not about the best, strongest mushroom. So you don't need to give us just the things you think are going to be the most potent. We really want to see what's there and what's in it. And then the only thing else about the submissions that I want to hit on is that during the sampling procedure, the lab destroys the material. It's extracted through their process and run through the machine. So your mushrooms are gone. So when you drop them off, they're gone. And everyone can submit up to 5 official samples. So, and you don't have to do it all at once. So if you drop off 1, you pay $40. You go back, you do another 2, you give them another $80. And so the maximum spend anyone will have on entering the cup as a grower will be $200 plus $35. So $235.
That's very affordable. Which
I think is pretty affordable. But you can do 1 sample, you can do 2. It doesn't matter. It affects the number of, I guess, your chances of winning, but only if you know what you have. And that's the sampling and the submission procedures. All of the submissions, all of the samples submitted will have photographs taken, and that will all be kind of compiled together into a larger data set that we'll release at the end. That'll be anonymous, so it won't identify who the grower is, but the data will be available for people to use if they want to.
Cool. What might somebody use that data for?
I would love to see someone use it. We can identify potential patterns if there's a grow medium that consistently yields a more potent product, if there are specific strains that we see over and over have very similar potencies. I think that there's a lot that we can kind of do to figure out like how the mushrooms, it's going to be hard, right? Because we're not doing consumption. So we're not going to have the anecdotal sort of experiences, but I'm hoping that someone will be able to use it, look at it and be like, okay, well, this is interesting that these numbers line up, right? Maybe there's maybe more baeocystin and more of the, I don't know. It's sort of, it's for, I'm giving it out. We're giving it out just so that someone might be able to use it for something. Chase at the lab mentioned that we can aggregate a lot of the data into charts and things like that. So we can see, is there a correlation between any number of things? I don't know. I'm not going to be the one doing the research.
No, that's really cool. It seems like it's very valuable. For
I think so. I hope so.
Things.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I guess really from a just base level, we're hoping to get kind of as macro as we can. So as many people as enter, and as many samples as we get, we can show what actual potency looks like. So, and we're hoping, and our big push for this is to get a lot of first-time testers. So a lot of people who don't know what their mushrooms are may be like, oh, these are really potent, but they're actually, they may be run-of-the-mill, and they may have something that's actually more potent. But seeing, and people will be able to then have a dialogue as to whether or not, oh, I ate this one, but I could have swore this was more potent, even though this has more X in it or some, X or Y. So that's another thing, is that we can start having dialogues with ourselves.
I think having that knowledge is so important. Often a story I repeatedly hear is that people will have some friends come in town and they get some mushrooms from another friend. They rent an Airbnb up in the mountains and are all set to have this very mystical experience. And they take, 3 or 4 grams and really don't get much anything out of it, because previously from other mushrooms, they've gotten a very heavy experience, but with this particular strain or this particular grower who may be newer, they just don't have the potency, and it's kind of a swing and a whiff, and it's a bit disappointing when you go up to the mountains and have people like that. And so the more knowledge the consumer can have with this, certainly the better.
Yeah, and from a harm reduction perspective, right, if you eat 3 or 4 grams of mushrooms and you're used to eating 3 or 4 grams of weaker mushrooms, and you eat 3 or 4 grams of Enigma, that's going to, right? That may change from a boring time to a very, very scary, potentially scary time, potentially awesome time. But, right? It's something where it's hard to, it's not the same as consent, but it's having informed consent, making it right. We can make the decisions about what we're taking. Right. In college, I didn't like eating edibles. They were too strong, cannabis edibles. I found them to be too strong. But I came to Colorado. It turns out I like them kind of strong. I like 30, 40 milligrams. I don't like 60 or 70. So it's something where I can make a decision on my consumption based on data rather than just vibes and feelings alone, and anecdotal stuff, right? So if my wife can eat more psychedelics than I can, but we do not take the same doses of stuff. So And I know that, so it's something that we can adjust for. But I think psychedelics are very individualized. Yeah. They're very subjective to you.
Yeah, I love the cannabis comparison. That really gives you a tangible, concrete representation of what you're about to put in your body, so you have an idea of how that's going to affect you.
Right. And actually, so 290, and I will give a lot of credit to my old firm and a lot of the other people pushing for it. In 290, they did put in the home grow protections for the labs. And that's something we don't have in cannabis. So right now, you could have your home grow cannabis and take it to Altitude, because they're not a state licensed testing lab. So they don't do official testing for dispensaries. They can do R&D things and stuff like that. But so there's been very few outlets that a home grower for cannabis could actually bring their stuff and get it accurately tested within the regulated system. They made it so that you cannot bring untested product into the regulated system. So the 290 protection for the lab is super important and really gives the consumers a lot more power and like insight into how this works, and I think gives us the ability to kind of figure it out before it actually, before things go live. Because we're going to have a lot more information than we had, I think, with some of the cannabis stuff before, especially before medical legalization. Maybe less so adult use because Colorado had such a robust market, but a lot of other states you look at, they have a robust illicit market, but they don't have a robust medical market. And so, and my brain is cannabis focused, but right, I see the sort of the things, they're very related. The same people are doing a lot of the same stuff, and it's it's not cyclical, but it's something.
Yeah, it mirrors very closely.
Yeah, it's just history repeating itself.
Yeah. History does repeat itself.
Right. Yeah.
So you mentioned there's the grower tickets and then other tickets. What are the other tickets, and what can those who are attending who have not submitted mushrooms really expect from the event?
Yeah, for sure. So that's something else that's, I think, a big, unique kind of offering we have. We're doing a public to anyone 21 and over. We're going to be selling tickets, so it won't be open to the public. But it's not going to be for invitation only. I think a lot of other cups out there, especially given the sort of underground nature of how you needed to operate in an illegal kind of police state. I lost my train of thought.
The other tickets.
Correct. Yes. So so we're going to be selling admission tickets to the event. Those will also, I believe, be $35. So people can come to the event. We'll have sponsors and things like that. We'll be vending. They'll have their booths. You can learn more about mushrooms, stuff like that. We're going to have the in-person judging, so people can get judged. We're going to have judging tickets as well, so people can get tickets and help kind of judge the mushrooms that are there. Not consumption-based, but just by looks and by weight and all of that stuff. It's just another kind of fun way to get people involved and learning. We're going to have speakers, some music. It's going to be catered. So everyone will have food. There'll be liquor. There's a liquor license, so that actually is a good liquor license. So there's no cannabis consumption and no other consumption. So no other substances can be consumed on the premises. It will put their liquor license in jeopardy, and we are not doing a unlicensed consumption event. This is not an unlicensed. This is not whatever.
Yeah. No public consumption.
Correct.
That's a great clarification.
Correct. Yep.
I know I've been to a couple of weddings over there, and they are pretty strict with the cannabis consumption and other consumption. But it's a beautiful venue and right next to Meow Wolf. So anyone who wants to make an entire day of it can possibly take a walk and then spend a few hours over at Meow Wolf.
That's true. People have asked about an after party, and anyone who wants to have an official after party can reach out to us. I'm not planning that. I've got enough on my plate. And the club is, the club is doing a lot with this, so I'm good. But yeah, I mean, Meow Wolf's right there. It's pretty accessible. There's metro, there's parking around the venue, and it's just going to be great. And it was something, we told them the name of the event, we told them what it is, and they were like, okay, we can't allow other consumption. I was like, that's totally fine. And per the Natural Medicine Act, right? We're not allowed to do that. We're not going to have it open to the public. We're going to stop selling tickets day of, so that it's not, right? This isn't going to be a public display event. There's no consumption. There's no public display. And just, yeah. So
yeah.
We'll reiterate that time and time again.
It's a good clarification. And so how is the Psychedelic Cup different from existing cups like the Oakland Hi-Fi Cup?
Mm-hmm. So I think the Psychedelic Cup is one of the major ways that it's different is that Psychedelic Club of Denver is a nonprofit. Psychedelic Club of Denver isn't the lab. The lab is partnering with us, but the lab's getting submission fees. We're not sponsored by. It's not an Altitude Consulting thing. So we're really keeping it just kind of objective data based. We're really focused on the community education part of it. So yeah, and we're not doing any cash prizes and things like that. There may be opportunities for sponsors to deal with each other, which would be great. But there's really, we're really trying to get this information out there. It's going to be fun. We're going to have prizes and awards and goodie bags and all of that stuff. But I don't, and tons of, credibility and all of that for winners and everyone else. But we're really trying to make it, not trying to make it, it's really focused on harm reduction, community education, and just learning what's there. So, right, the winning is fun, it's great, but it's almost secondary to the actual goal, which is getting everyone involved, getting everyone to test their mushrooms, and starting to have those dialogues that people actually know what is going on from a scientific kind of perspective. That's at least how I like my things.
Yeah, no, it sounds like such an exciting opportunity for the community to come together and learn and have fun. Is there anything else that we should know about the cup, or anything else you want to share?
I guess we're really open to, one of the things actually is Psychedelic Club of Denver members get discounted tickets, and also will be able to volunteer with the event. So if anyone has any questions about that or anything like that, check out the Psychedelic Club of Denver stuff. The other thing is, we have our website is copsychedeliccup.com. On the website, you can sign up for the email list, but you can also just send emails directly to it's copsychedeliccup@gmail.com. I get those emails, I see them. So, if you've got ideas or comments or anything like that, we want to hear them. We're going to be releasing the rules and everything. So once the rules are released, that's going to kind of be, for the most part, pretty rigid. We don't want to be moving the goalpost while things are going on, but we're very open to, new sponsors. New sponsors would be great. It's entirely sponsor funded. Psychedelic Club has really never done a big event kind of like this. And so, we're paying for it with our sponsors are really supporting us. Actually, I should give a shout out to them. So our sponsors we have Monster Mushroom Company, whose shirt I'm actually wearing. I just got it. Denver Spore Company, Elevated Mushrooms, Colorado Cultures, Collab Consulting, Clark Consultancy, and Dosed Edibles. And we're working with a couple of, and Rooster, actually, we just got. So Rooster's going to be a sponsor as well. And so I'm trying to get some of the cannabis crossover.
Cool.
So we can do that.
Yeah.
But that's the big stuff. But yeah, if you've got any ideas or recommendations or want to help, reach out and we'll take it into consideration. I'll probably, set up a call or something. I'll try and figure it out.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really, the club just wants to put on the best thing we can. It's really no kind of, we own it. It's Psychedelic Club of Denver's event, right? The fundraising is for us. But as far as what is going on, that's for anyone else. So we don't really have any ego as to what this is going to look like. So
yeah, and Psychedelic Club of Denver is such a fun organization.
Yeah.
We're all members. Can you give information again on how people can join to get their discount and give their voice?
Yeah. Psychedelic Club of Denver. You can go to Psychedelic Club of Denver Facebook, Instagram, and the website. To join, I think you can do it online. You can also just reach out to the club, info at PCOD.com, I think. I don't know.
We'll post a link.
Post a link. Yeah. You can reach out to anyone on there. You can reach out to me. We've got Katie, Amber, Seth, Nate are all on the board. They're all great. They're easy to reach out to. Kess is the ex-president, but is still intimately involved with the cup and pretty much everything else going on.
Yeah.
and she was here.
She's amazing. All of those people you mentioned are amazing.
Right. Yeah. They are great. And like, that was the thing is I was at the lab I did mushroom extractions just because I wanted to learn how to do that. I had friends who can grow, and I was like, well, there's a gap there, it seems. And I went to the lab, and the lab was talking about potentially doing a competition. I was like, well, actually, and they wanted to partner with a nonprofit was the big thing. They didn't really want to make a whole bunch of money and have the other stuff. And I was like, well, Psychedelic Club of Denver is a great nonprofit. And they were like, tell us more. And so I linked it up, and sort of it just happened. But I live in Englewood, so it was 5 minutes from my house. I walked in and had some mushrooms. Like, hey, do you guys do testing? Because they'd done an AMA, Reddit AMA. And that was, I Googled it, and I was like, oh, I can get these done here. And so sort of started that relationship, and like it's flourished since then.
Yeah, it sounds serendipitous.
Yes, serendipitous is.
I know the lab is pretty close to the Costco down there, and so I think I'm going to combine the trips together.
Yes.
Let's see what's going on.
Yeah, it's great. And they're always, Chase and Colton have been the main people that I've been working with. They've been coming to our events, and they're great. If you go in, they will tell you about it. Don't ask their secrets, but other than that, they'll tell you everything that they're doing. And really kind of go into it. It's a lot of fun to work with them, and they're super knowledgeable. And they also do DMT and mescaline testing, as well as, I believe, Amanita. That's something else, actually. So this is for the Psychedelic Cup is for psilocybin-containing mushrooms only. So we're not going to be testing for like amanitas or any of the other kind of psychoactive mushrooms. It's just for psilocybin, since that's what's the most controlled and the hardest to research.
Cool. Well, that certainly has been a ton of information about the upcoming Psychedelic Cup, put together by Psychedelic Club of Denver. I do know that you have worked in